You buy the car and you get a flat tire on the way home. It's like, really?
Right.
You know?
I can give you the stat. We have the stat because we work nationally. 25% of the time, within 60 days of closing and move in, there will be a home system failure because the home buyers are using the home differently than the previous owner. So 1 in 4 of your clients are going to have an issue. And so let's get in front of it. Let's position ourselves as the expert.
You talk about it privately. We talk about it publicly. This is the Real Estate Insiders Unfiltered Podcast. Welcome again to the Real Estate Insiders Unfiltered Podcast. I'm your host, Wiggy Dwiggins, along with my co-host, Mr. Keith Robinson.
Yes, sir.
I had to go with it.
Twiggy Twigs.
There it is. Tell us about Jess Fields, the Chief Sales Officer at Frontdoor, and the cool shit they're doing over there.
Yeah, we had a great conversation about what I loved that I didn't know about her and what they're working on is her background and how she has helped companies consistently reinvent themselves.
Yeah.
So we spent a bit of time talking about just reinvention and how to do it professionally. She talked to us a little bit about the different kinds of homeownership archetypes and how you should service them and take care of them in different ways. The power of transcending the transaction, showing value. And then we spent a bit on a tool, which we don't always do, but it was a perfect archetype or perfect structure for the conversation for how we should be reevaluating our buyer consultation. And it was great.
It's just a cool damn product that everybody should be doing. And full disclosure, Keith and I have been pushing it in our keynotes because it's just awesome. So it's a great podcast, man. It was just really good content. So
you're gonna dig it. Put it in your ears, kids.
Jess, welcome to the show. We are excited to have you here. I'm also excited to have a conversation that doesn't include Keith laughing in the background for 15 minutes.
What are you talking about?
Just before the podcast. Keith is on a tear today, by the way.
Fair warning, fans. I am on one
Uncle
today.
Keith has had a few cocktails, although he hasn't, but I think
I went to the gym before this mistake. The endorphins are popping.
There it is.
Here we go.
Jess is like, what am I doing on here?
Yeah, get me out of here.
We are very excited to have you and actually have your company on the podcast too, because you guys are doing some really cool stuff. We definitely want to cover some of the really cool things that Frontdoor is doing and some of your initiatives. We'll talk about that and certainly some conversations around the consumer. But before we do that, we'd love for you to just tell our viewers and listeners just a little bit about your background first, just kind of how you got here, your current position, your rise up to this position, and then we'll dive into some rapid fires before we jump into the meat of the conversation. So we'll start with that.
Sounds great. Well, currently I'm the Chief Sales Officer for Frontdoor.
Currently, they sound like you got an announcement you're going to make on the pod. You got an announcement? Are you going to be the CEO by the end of this?
I was going to start there and then kind of, go back to the beginning. But I have a very eclectic career that didn't make sense until I came to Frontdoor. So I'll tell you that story. But I actually spent the first 13 years of my career in manufacturing. And that was my path. Not many people know that about me. But worked my way up to operating officer of a large printing company. And had run into, through my work on the board of directors for the Michigan State Business School, had met some interesting people and got talked into taking a role at Sears Holdings in home services to figure out how to help Sears, this $50 billion supply chain back in 2010, how to point their products and services into B2B markets. So I found myself in this really cool go-to-market role with this huge company that wanted to sell products into B2B. And it was a huge success story, probably one of the most fun times I've had in my entire career, figuring out, okay, how do we sell Kenmore appliances and Craftsman tools and fitness equipment into universities and property management companies? And we built about a $3.5 billion business in a short amount of time. So it was pretty successful. So that opportunity helped me to get a role on the retail side of the business. And I often say sometimes you have to do something you don't enjoy doing to know you never want to do that again in your career. That's retail for me. So after about a year of retail agony, I decided to go back into B2B and found myself in the payment technology space, running sales for a national payment tech company. And it was a really exciting time because it was during emerging market time where Visa and MasterCard were trying to open acceptance to allow people to pay on their debit cards for their mortgages, their rents. Back at that time, about 2015, that was not allowed. That work led me into some relationships, including the Rocket companies back at that time, which was Quicken Loans, we've all heard about, and took a role in the real estate side of Rocket back in 2017. That was my first introduction into the realtor space, and I think I've been addicted ever since. I met a very cool woman by the name of Helen Valley. She was with Berkshire Hathaway, and she showed me the ropes. She taught me that this is a people business and relationships matter, and that was the beginning of something pretty beautiful. And then back in 2022, I want to say, or 21, I was offered the opportunity to run the real estate business for all of Rocket companies, including Rocket Mortgage, which was how do we get real estate professionals to lean into Rocket in our solutions, which at the time was a pretty hard thing to do because we had not done a great job of serving agents until that time. So spent a couple of years trying to figure that out. And then it all came together for me at Frontdoor. My background in home services and my background in real estate brought me to Frontdoor, where I had an opportunity to help reinvent the home warranty category, particularly for real estate.
Yeah. Wow. That's first of all,
that's a hell of a background.
That's a hell of a background. So Sears is not the starting point I thought you were going to say. Not right. Not in a derogatory way, but that's just Sears is such a company. It's such an old company.
So much history.
There's probably like people don't even. Most people on this listening to this pod don't even know that Sears actually used to run a real estate division for a while, and used to have it inside their stores.
They had a real estate office in the middle of their store.
Yeah.
Wow. Started as a catalog company long time ago, and there's actually a museum in the corporate office and just north of Chicago, and just such iconic brands that I got to work with and touch. It was really cool.
My first job was also at Sears.
No way.
Oh,
there was a time in history, I think it was in like the 2010s, that at one point in time, 25% of all living adult Americans had worked for Sears at some point in their life. I thought that was a crazy stat.
Tell me you still got the little name badge, James. Tell me.
Did not have the name badge.
Damn it.
But I was 16 and I worked in the tire department and sold rims and tires, my first sales job. In fact, side note, that became really useful because when I was on the side of the road in Las Vegas with my friend Rob Hahn recently, when we had a flat tire at 112 degrees outside, I was able to change the tire in 20 minutes because he had no idea even where to find the spare. Point is, I'm part of that 25%. I know, but he'll laugh at this. That 25% was me too.
Wow.
And you're right. There was a lot of people that had their first job there doing, in some capacity. So Keith, what's your follow-up? You've always got one.
I do. I have two. I'll pick one. So usually I ask when people come, you had a very successful career previous to real estate, and then you came into residential real estate. So common question that I like to, just because it's fun to hear, what was the most surprising or the most, like when you're like, okay, I think I get this real estate thing. And then you come into the industry, you're like, oh man, I wasn't expecting blank.
I would say that there's so many different cultures of real estate. We all say that it's a hyper local business, but I got to work with so many brands, really all the brands during my time at Rocket. And so just seeing just how different the inner workings of real estate companies were and how they approached service to the client, the real estate transaction, was just fascinating to me. And the complexity, I guess, would be the second one, just how complex it is because of that hyper localness and all the local, norms and regulations.
I've probably asked this question of, I don't know, maybe a dozen people who've been on the pod since we started this. And the complexity is the one that comes up. That's a through line. It's one of those things that I think from the outside looking in, it's like, oh, okay, I get residential real estate. And, you bought a house, sold a house, whatever. And then you get inside, you're like, holy moly,
right?
This is wild.
I used to have a leader at Rocket say, 30, 50 years ago, it took 30 days to close a real estate transaction, and we're still pretty much there.
Still at 30 days, 50 years later. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No, it's not getting easy.
Rapid fire questions. I'll ask the first one because it's my favorite of the two, but I like them both. Favorite book or podcast this year, ever, recently, whatevs. What are you reading or listening to, or would you recommend that I or we read and listen to?
I've been listening to Dynamic Lifestyle. It's Eric and Chris Martinez. Oh. And the reason for that is I have a few friends that after college moved to California, and a few of them got degrees in spiritual psychology, and they are a trip. And you can have an hour with them, and it's like a year of therapy. And so they've got me plugged in.
Tell me they live in Northern California, because I need me some therapy, and they're local.
You're a lost cause, Keith.
No, well, I got to at least try.
Yeah.
I have people for you, but they have plugged me into sources of information like this that really help you just have checkpoints of like, am I living my purpose? Am I aligned in what's really important to me? And so that's a great podcast for people looking for that.
Dynamic Lifestyle. Okay. All right, after the pod, I want an introduction to your spiritual.
We on our website have a list of all the pods and books that people are reading for people to go check out, which is pretty cool. It's quite an inspirational list of content at this point. All right, last one, and I'll ask real quick before we dive in. You get to have lunch with one person, current or historical. Who would it be and why?
I'm going to say Dolly Parton, and that may sound strange, but hear me out.
That's awesome. No, I'm with you. Go ahead. I know her life story. It's amazing.
She became famous in the 60s, and she's continued to reinvent herself. And for Pete's sake, she was just dancing with the Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders a few months ago at 70-something years old. But I also think she would be a great mentor in terms of balancing, your aspirations with the service and the give back as well. I think she's a tremendous role model for that.
Yeah. We happen to have, James and I have someone that works with us in our company who actually knows Dolly Parton and was a mentor to him. And because I'm relentlessly curious, I was like, what would I be most surprised to learn about Dolly Parton? And he said, from a business standpoint, she is a genius. Like, she is a genius. There's a reason she was on the Super Bowl. Like, everything she does is thoughtful, purposeful, and from a business standpoint, she is sharp as a tack. Like, maybe not what she always puts out when she's on stage, or back when she was on Hee Haw or wherever her origin story is. So really, that's a good one. We haven't had any Dolly Parton. That's a great
Well, she just seems so centered too, so true to herself despite everything that she's doing. I think that's great.
Yeah, that's a good one.
That's a good one.
That's a good one. We haven't had that one. All right. Let's dive into some of the main questions we wanted to talk about. So first, just give us a little bit of background on Frontdoor. And then we have a whole bunch of topics around the industry and home warranty and some of the new products you guys are doing, which I think we're finding really interesting. So we'll start there. So tell us a little about Frontdoor, and then we'll follow up with some additional questions on that.
Frontdoor is a nationally focused home services, maintenance, and repair company. That's what we focus on. We're based in Memphis, Tennessee. We're publicly traded on the NASDAQ. We do just about $2 billion in revenue a year. And we have about 1,800 employees all over the country. We're a virtual first company, which I think is really awesome. The talent that we're able to attract with that model is just incredible. Our core service is home warranty, which it sounds like we're going to get into that in a little bit more detail. But we've also more recently been updating and developing our product offering to keep up with the preferences of today's homeowners. And so there's some really interesting things that we're building out there to deliver more on-demand needs that homeowners have today.
So you're really, so the thought process is trying to figure out more along the home ownership line of what people are needing, but you started with home warranty. That's the core through American Home Shield, I believe, correct?
That's right. That's right. American Home Shield developed over 50 years ago. We were the one that invented it.
So Keith and I when we were coming up with some ideas and questions we wanted to ask you, you're sort of reinventing the space. And let's just call a spade a spade. The home warranty business is a tough business, right? Because you're providing this warranty and there's exclusions and things. There just are. It's just a natural aspect of it. But you've been really thinking about where to take it. So what was that? Let's just start there. Like, you come in, you're taking an industry that's been around a long time, a product's been around a long time, and you're reinventing it. Talk to us about like that process and like how you're thinking about it, what you went through, any pushback, et cetera.
This is exactly why I came to this company, an opportunity to reinvent a really long-standing category that still has value, but there's a lot of negative connotation about warranty. I'll go into that. But let me start with 2 years ago when I started at Frontdoor. At the same time, our chairman of the board was stepping into the CEO role. I thought, the day I accepted the offer, which was a little
like, uh-oh,
what's going on here? But he called me and he said, Jess, we still want you to come. We're going to make some changes. I'm stepping into this role because I want to do something really special with the company. And I was hooked. And at that same time, he started bringing in some new leadership. We turned over about half of our executive leadership team at that time.
Wow.
But it was important to bring new thought and approach to complement some of the existing long-standing knowledge in the category. And so we really started focusing on running a stronger business, a smarter business, putting the right process in place, developing our leadership and our talent. And then we started turning to, okay, let's do some research. Let's understand if, how, why warranty is still connecting with homeowners, and what changes might we need to make to start adapting this 50-year-old product. So it was a really interesting process that we went through. What we found is that warranty went through a really tough time, just like everybody else through COVID, because it was really hard to get things in the supply chain. It was hard to get, contractors in the home. Warranty developed a little bit of a bad reputation, but we've come through that. The supply chain's better, running a better business. We're very customer focused. But in addition to that, we did find some needs that were unmet. And there's more demand for services that are delivered more quickly. In a typical warranty, that can be more of a budget protection for people that really need that assurance or that safety net because they don't have a lot in their budget. Warranty was a great product, but we also knew that we had to build something for people that had more discretionary income. They're a little bit busier. They're not so worried about paying a monthly membership fee. They need help when they need it from an expert. And so that was really the birth of more of the Frontdoor product set that you've seen, recently that's catering to today's homeowner.
Interesting. So talk to us about, you guys did a bunch of studies on this stuff and sort of the archetypes of the homeowner, et cetera. So let's go into that, because you've sent us some really interesting stats that I thought were areas we haven't really looked at. And Keith and I are going to go deep on this, by the way, because we've been talking for years about what we call the life cycle of homeownership. And it's great to start to see companies really thinking about that long-term process. So tell us about this study.
I have some great information for you. And so when we got into this, we learned that there's really two axes that you can think about in terms of homeowners. There are people that are willing and able to spend for help. And on the other axis is people are willing to outsource or not. And so these categories emerged for us of people that were confident outsourcers, people that I can do it, I just don't have time. We saw that there are people we called self-reliant skeptics. They found it hard to find experts, and so they ended up doing it themselves because they didn't trust that someone else could do it for them in their home. And then we had this segment we called box checkers that were just like, I'd rather be fishing. But these are things that need to get done in the home. But what really emerged through all the research was that people want an expert to help them navigate the hardships of taking care of a home, because we all know that it's really hard to take care of a home. And so here's really the highlight that I want to bring you today is that, we think about real estate and real estate professionals. A lot of them have a great Rolodex of experts, but here's what's missing. Those experts are not available on demand. If someone has an issue with their HVAC, they're not always willing to wait a day, 2 days, 3 days for someone to get out to their home. They want advice now. They want to try to triage it themselves. And that's the gap that exists in homeownership today. And so there are tools and services available to real estate professionals to be that go-to person. And, I have people call me all the time, Jess, something's wrong with my home. I know you're in the industry. Who should I call? That should be the agent. They should be the go-to person. So there are companies and partners that can arm you with, this information to put you as the expert, you as the hero. And, I read something, this is a couple of months ago. I have people I love to follow on social media, and Nick Bailey is one of them. I'm a fan of him. And he said, you need to be
He's all right. I'm just kidding. Nick and I are friends. He'll totally listen to this. I was just kidding.
Yeah. Nick's been on the pod.
Nick's been on the pod. Yeah.
I've met him before. I just think he's a really cool, smart guy. Yeah. And he said, you have to be the agent for the lifetime of the home, not the transaction. And if you show this value, they will come back to you. They should not go to Google. They should go to you, the agent. And so if you can arm yourself with some great partnerships, you can be this expert for life.
So one of the byproducts, one of the byproducts.
Because I quoted somebody else. I'm sorry.
No, not at all.
We love Nick. We just like
he's somebody people should be listening to,
and someone people should quote.
Yeah.
Yes. One of the byproducts of that exercise was you guys came up with this product that's sort of like telehealth for the home, where you can. I know it's much more than this. I'm going to explain it in my eloquent Neanderthal-like way, but it's you can basically FaceTime a service provider. And I don't remember what you called them, but box checker, I think. Like, I know there's a list of things I should do, but I don't have the capability or the desire to do them. So having the ability to just FaceTime an expert, because often if your pilot's light is out, I'm sure I could Google how to figure out how to do a pilot light, but having an expert that's there, like, no, stupid, lift this little thing, and here's how you do it so you don't blow yourself up, right? I'm sure they would never call me stupid, but I am.
I would.
Yes, you would. So that you built, which I find incredibly interesting, because you now are thinking about the way I think an agent should be thinking about it, which is that sort of end-to-end resource. It's extended beyond the transaction. I mean, as buyers, agents are reevaluating their value prop and trying to think about, what can I plug into my offering to a buyer, right? Those are the kinds of things that we've been encouraging anyone who will listen. Think about, of course, the transaction and how you're going to provide value, but looking at it beyond the transaction. I'm curious, you went through this exercise to land on that. How did you end up there? Because that's such it's one of those things where you hear it after. Like, I guess for anyone who's listening, entrepreneurs that are listening, agents, owners, tech startups, how did you go through that process of, okay, we're going to reinvent this company. We're going to do some interesting leaning forward things. And you have big whiteboard and everybody's throwing ideas up. And some people are like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. And some of them are pretty good. But how did you get from that initial concept of we need to futurize, that's not a word, but we need to futurize this company, and ending at telehealth for the home?
I was fortunate enough to be in the room of strategy, and it was such a cool process. But I really give so much credit to our CEO. He is an innovator, and he really led the way of let's go do something different and special. And again, coming off the time of COVID where telehealth really took off, and that's something that people adopted to, we thought, what if we could be that support system in the home? Because again, taking care of the home is really hard to do. And so we set out and like, let's just try it. There's nothing wrong with trying it. So let's go hire some professionals that have been doing this for 20, 30 years. Maybe they're tired of crawling under the sink every day. And maybe they like to sit at their desk and consult people that need help, and they can walk them through it. And so it really started just testing it out and playing with that concept. And, that birthed the invention of our experts, who are employees of Frontdoor. They're not contractors. They work for us. And they're they're hand selected. It takes a special person to have the patience, the professionalism that, we would trust to handle that customer experience. But as I think about what real estate agents are going through every day, everyone expects them to be the expert on all the things. And they are in most cases. But sometimes you just get a little more technical than you're comfortable with handling. And we saw one of your agents in Chicago use Frontdoor. And they said, we were doing the final walkthrough, and that's when people are kind of getting nervous. Is everything good with the house, before I sign on the dotted line? And in that case, it was a plumbing issue that the buyer was concerned about. And the agent said, I remembered Frontdoor. And within a couple of seconds, I opened my app. I pushed plumbing issue on my phone. And within seconds, I had a video chat with a licensed plumber who patiently assess through the video, circling things, heading us look closer. And within minutes, the buyer had the confidence that it was not a major issue and went to closing with the confidence that they needed to sign and get that transaction done. And so I think that's just a great example. And there's many that I have for you of agents that are finding out about the service and saying, oh gosh, I can really be the hero right now and solve an inspection finding, or maybe solve some issues pre-listing to take care of things before we put the home on the market. So, the examples go on. But the one that's really starting to come up that I love is, let's give the home buyer a better onboarding experience. Let's do a walkthrough once they get the keys and make sure they're comfortable with, how do I turn the water on? Am I comfortable with how to, use different systems in the home, and the expert.
Can you go deeper on that, Jess? Let's go. I want to pin in on that because I actually hadn't heard this before, and it's interesting to me. So this, just for the viewers and listeners, so we're all clear, you built a app that somebody can download, and then they can connect via video chat with an expert that can talk about AC or how to use the thermostat or any of that stuff. So that's this service that you guys built. So now going to everybody phrase that up. So they're taking this app and they're doing a final walkthrough with the Frontdoor expert on the property during the walkthrough.
That's correct.
Like that,
or a move-in walkthrough.
Yeah, let me add some color to the app. So you can go in the App Store, download the Frontdoor app. Your first chat with an expert is completely free, so you can try it out. If you love it, it's $25 for the entire year to talk to experts unlimited, just to kind of give the context of how you use it. But yes, when a buyer closes on the transaction, it's time to get the keys, it's time to move in. We're seeing more and more real estate agents that have the app on standby. They're walking them through the home, and they're walking through the different complexities of the home. And if there's any questions that arise about the home systems, the water heater, the dishwasher doesn't seem to be working. Sometimes things seem to break to the closing.
The day you move in.
It's like you buy the car and you get a flat tire on the way home. It's really? Right.
I can give you the stat. We have the stat because we work nationally. 25% of the time, within 60 days of closing and move in, there will be a home system failure because the home buyers are using the home differently than the So 1 in 4 of your clients are going to have an issue. And so let's get in front of it. Let's position ourselves as
well. I want to pin something here. This is really interesting why I was asking the question. So Keith and I have been, as we've been doing keynotes around the country and things, talking about how the way that we work with our clients is going to have to shift significantly. I'm going to make one point on this. So we've been talking about how the relationship with your lender needs to change. It's not just, here's the lender, go get financing. Your lender is going to could be even part of your buyer consult, where the lender's with you going, here's the 7 different ways we can finance agent compensation. Another one, and I'm bringing this full circle, another one is insurance, which, as we all know, is a massive problem across the country. You're going to have to work with your insurance agent before you even write an offer, because you may not be able to get insurance. Right. And what I think is interesting with this is you're bringing now in this expert on the property. And so to me, what I love about what you're talking about in this vision that we're pushing is you're not just saying I have this Rolodex, you're actually bringing them into this experience. And I love the idea that, look, we're either going to do the walkthrough together, pre or post, and this is the person we work with. Here's the service that we're doing. This is the expert you can contact. Like it just changes everything from being this one solo agent to I have this, army of people that we work with on a regular basis. And I think agents need to think about that a lot, actually.
I want to piggyback on that too, because I agree with everything James has said. And to add to it, I think, and I don't even know if your app can do this. I should know, but I don't. The way my brain works is, okay, this is amazing. So I would plan on coming to your house once a year. We do 2 things. I'm going to drop off a CMA. We can review it or not, but I'm going to give you a very deep dive accurate reflection of current value of your home, more than, where you go to find the online values of your home. This will be curated by me. You like how I just artfully work my way around this estimate. So I'm going to bring that. We can review it or not. And then hopefully I can do this, do a walkthrough of the key services of your home just for a checkup. Let's check the HVAC. Smart. Let's check the home water heater. Any of those core services, things that usually break, let's just check them, and we'll do it. I'll hold the phone. I'll do it with the service provider. We can all walk around the house together. Now I have this 1 hour experience with my client once a year, where I'm transitioning and transcending the transaction, so that, like you said, when you were quoting Nick, not us, that I'm now, they don't think of Google anymore, right? You do that 2 or 3 years in a row, and they will just start reaching out to you when they have anything to do with home. And that's what you want.
I'm going to take it a step further. I hadn't thought of it that way. And I love that, Keith. But also the timing in the year is important too.
Right. Right. Maybe it's twice a year.
It's twice a year, and in the spring and in the fall, before we turn on your air conditioning and before we turn on the furnace, because we don't want to get into the season where everyone's down and you're trying to get contractors in your home. Like, let's get in front of it. Let's do that preventative maintenance. And if we do find something on the expert chat, we can then say, okay, we have a contractor in your area. We can send them out and get you that preventative maintenance.
Do you think but I'm sorry, my brain's going down insurance roads now, but do you think that's actually part of your business model? I mean, I'm assuming that if the client is taking care of the assets better, it's less risk for you from a warranty perspective. Kind of like if you get regular checkups with your doctor on health, you're likely less to go to the hospital for major issues. It lowers health insurance costs. Is that a thought process you guys are having on the warranty side a little bit?
Absolutely. We're trying to encourage more and more of our members to get that preventative maintenance check, because, there's nothing worse than, trying to get in during peak season when it's 110 degrees in Arizona and your air's out. We've got to get people in front of those situations. And we know that taking care of our home proactively is going to, you're not going to be dealing with failures. You'll be proactive.
I'm going to anchor this into, and I want to say it more plain. Okay. Anyone who's in residential real estate that is listening to this right now, you either are or should be reevaluating your buyer consultation, right? And how you can provide value to your client for these future conversations that you're going to have on August 17th and going forward. Some sort of biannual checkup where that's part of your service offering and a promise that you make. Now you got to schedule it. You got to follow up. You got to follow through, right? You got to do all those things. But those are the kinds of things everyone should be thinking about for how you're going to increase your service offering, because in the absence of value, the only thing to compete on is price. And I've just been screaming into any microphone that would let me that I don't want to negotiate on price in this new future. I want to negotiate on service. And so the more you can pile in these things, and to me, we just did a brainstorming exercise live on how you can rethink tools in your business and look at them through the lens of providing service to the buyer and service beyond the transaction. You do those two things, and August 18th looks a lot better for you than the ones who don't.
To piggyback on that, just because I want 10% if this deal comes together, just putting that out in the universe, but you guys should look at homeowner.ai.
Okay.
And figure out how to marry those two for you guys and them. Keith, I just did that publicly.
I was here.
They're very focused on this long tail. Mm-hmm. This long tail, I think is 8 to 13 years that somebody owns a house now is the average, somewhere in that time frame. And so they're building the system to do that. They've actually done it. It's really sophisticated, almost overbuilt. And that's a compliment, by the way, what it does. You guys are tying the people to it.
Sure.
The human to it, because it's like, I don't want the system to tell me to do, I want the system to tell me I need to change my air filters. But then I'm like, I also don't know what freaking air filter, and like, can somebody just deliver it? And like, then I'm like, can somebody just go do it, please? I just don't have time for this. Where I was going with this, though, besides the push for the two companies, I think it's really interesting how agents are really focused on top of funnel, just new business in, but they're really missing the fact that the best possible relationship for generating business is actually, it's in the 8 to 13 years that the homeowner who you sold the house to can be a referral over that period of time. So Keith's idea of just coming in every year or even every 6 months to do an inspection, some agents are going right now going, I don't want to do that. And I'm like, you're missing the point.
Right.
It's belly to belly with your past customer. Put the scripting in there of like, hey, by the way, anybody's looking to buy or sell a house, quote Brian Buffini, whatever you want to do, like the idea of being that focal point, you guys are taking a massive portion of that with that app. And Keith, for full disclosure, Keith and I do not have any interest in any of this stuff for clarity, but we have included Frontdoor in all of our keynotes because for us, we're like, this is a tool to differentiate yourself and continue to provide that value and be front and center for that client for that period of time that they own that home. I think we're missing a huge opportunity in the industry.
Agent, what would you rather do? Would you rather keep telling yourself you're going to call your sphere of influence every month and then not doing it, right? Or would you rather go have a fun conversation with a past client twice a year and do your pop by, right? Thanks, Brian Buffini. Do your pop by, but don't leave them, a glossy card and whatever Brian's a great guy. If you're going to take something, it's better than nothing. But I'd much rather someone come and do a diagnostic on my home for me.
Hell yeah.
And give me an accurate depiction of value and then have a thoughtful conversation for 20 or 30 or 40 minutes or however long versus, look, you don't need us to tell you should follow up with your past clients. You already know this, right? But human beings, we're not good at long-term pleasure delaying, and 8 years is a long time to maintain a relationship before you're going to transact again. But this is a simple, easy way. Be thinking about all of your business this way.
And the other thing I'd love to add on that, Keith, is that this takes the pressure off when you have those great partnerships with warranty companies or partnerships with companies like Frontdoor. You don't have to be the expert or feel that pressure to know everything about everything. Like, you have that expertise in your back pocket. And so even if you're a newer agent, you don't have to worry about walking into the home and providing this consultation you're suggesting twice a year. You don't have to worry. You don't have to bring that expertise. We can bring that for you.
I have two questions.
Yeah,
sorry, I beat you to it.
Go.
First one's probably simple. It's just a statistic. What percentage of problems that, when someone calls with a problem, what percentage are solved right then? And what percentage do you need to get a contractor out there? And then my follow-up question, which I'll need a little more exposition on, is to me, it all hinges on the quality of the experts that are on this phone, on this video chat. So how do you vet them? So what percentage are solved? And then how do you vet the expert?
Okay, so 25% of the time when someone calls into a Frontdoor expert, we are resolving the issue right on the spot. And this is awesome because conversely, consider the scenario where someone's furnace isn't blowing hot air and it ended up being the batteries in the thermostat. Nobody wants to pay the contractor $200 to come out to deal with that. So 25% of the time, we're dealing with it right there and taking care of it. Another 25% of the time, we're sending the homeowner out to Home Depot or Lowe's to get a part. And we're sending them the notes to the app of what to get. They can even call us back from the store if they want to. And then they're coming back and calling us back to finish the job. So 50%.
So they don't have to wait for somebody to come out.
No.
Right.
No. Yeah. 50% of the time, we're helping you take care of it. The experts are great. Not only are they so patient, so experienced, and I'll get to your second question in a minute, but they also are evaluating the level of expertise or handiness of the person on the phone and asking them of their comfort level. Are you willing to?
I'm laughing because I would flunk. I would, whatever the lowest grade is.
We're stopping right here. Yeah. We're going to send the electrician.
I would be like on some
hammer,
nail. Break everything. Yeah.
I'm going to put the notes in our system when you call in, Keith, for you.
Do it.
And then, so 50% of the time, then we can't resolve. It's a bigger issue. But the expert then can push recommendations through the app, or here are recommended contractors that we work with on a regular basis that we trust that you can, get in touch with to complete the job.
Do you see this product being something that maybe it already is? Maybe I'm asking a stupid question, but is this something that when they're doing a home warranty through your organization, they're getting it now as part of it to help mitigate that?
I can't comment on that yet, James, but I'll just say
my apologies. Hey, said it first here on the podcast. You all heard it. So
we found the boundary. There it is.
So, okay. Well, I think it's interesting. I want to kind of bring this back a little bit because home warranty is a tough business. I mean, it's just like anything, like insurance. Everyone's like, I hate my insurance company. It's like, well, they're trying to manage risk and still make a profit and be able to pay stuff out. And home warranty obviously was one of those similarly. And I think it's fascinating how you're approaching, how you're reinventing this process as part of a new type of experience for the homeowner. Not to mention the psychology of if you're talking to to Frontdoor on a regular basis, you're developing a different psychological relationship with them because it's like they've been helping me for 2 years and finally something broke. Like you can't say my home warranty company sucks. They've been there with me along the way. Interesting from
what I'd like to comment on there. The other angle is if we're talking about buyer's agency and all the changes coming through, I come from mortgage and I think about all the people that are struggling with affordability today. They're putting everything they can into the closing costs. There's not a lot of money left on the other side, but it's a good investment right into their home. And so, we know that 25% of people can't afford more than a $500 out-of-pocket expense. And so 33% of people can't afford a $1,000 out-of-pocket expense. And so considering the home warranty and the transaction is really important to protect people on the other side for home ownership. And you alluded to the fact that home warranty has kind of been a tough industry. COVID was a really challenging time, but the industry has come a long way. I think agents stopped putting warranty in the transaction for some past sins, but I'd encourage people to take a look, whoever your partner is, because it has come a long way. A lot of companies, ours included, have concierge services for agents. So you can get to the right person the first time and get the problem solved. And I think the industry is coming a really long way. And I think it's a really important protection tool for especially buyers today.
I can tell you, Keith and I recommend that in buyer consults that part of the service you're offering, if you're going to try and garner the same rates of compensation you were before, is to provide a home warranty in it. And that we think it's an important part of it. I know, Keith, you said you did on all your transactions when you were selling them a long time ago.
I did, especially first-time home buyers. Yeah. I mean, it was a must for first-time home buyers because they're used to being a renter. They're not used to the expenses that are associated with home ownership.
Well, we saw back in 2018, prior to COVID, somewhere around 30% of real estate transactions had a warranty included. It's less than half that today. And so that best practice, just like all the other best practices that we're trying to bring back through the real estate transaction, warranty is another really important one for the customer.
Yeah. And I just public service announcement, I'm famous for them. This is the time to go schedule a time with yourself. Go to your office, lock the door, put Disney Plus on or whatever the damn channel is, get the kids out of the way, get a glass of your favorite beverage, whatever that would happen to be. And every single person in this industry should be looking at all of the tools that are in their tool belt, all of the tools they've heard about but not really explored, and start to look at them through the lens of providing value to the buyer. And just stack and stack and stack tools in that conversation so that when you meet with a buyer, you're talking about all the things that you do that are different. Mm-hmm. This is an example. There are literally dozens, if not hundreds, that you could take and tweak and flip and process and do different ways. And on the other side of that brainstorming exercise, then curate and create a buyer consultation that's unparalleled, that no one has ever seen before. That's how you're going to exceed on the other side of these changes. And that's part of the reason we want to have this conversation, was so that people could really understand how to take a tool and then internalize that tool and plug it into your business to provide massive value.
I love it. Jess, we have one last question we always ask on the show. I'll let Keith do it because it's his parting question. So
Jess, other than sign up for Frontdoor for all your clients tomorrow and get a home warranty, if you were an agent or a brokerage, what's the one thing you would implement today in your business to drive it forward for the next 12 months?
We mentioned it here, but it has to be working that long cycle. I hear everyone talking about how important it is to have a lifetime relationship with your clients, not just at the transaction, but so few people execute on that. There's got to be a system implemented. I think back, to my time at Rocket, especially at Rocket Homes, and just the lead management, how difficult it was to get agents to follow up with people that were taking longer in the process. but it's so important to be touching and connecting with people, and the tools that we've suggested today to stay in touch with them. One example, again, on the warranty side is your warranty company will probably give you the claims that were filed and, money paid out to your clients. And then you can circle back with a good thing. We got that tool for you. And so we've got to build up better systems to stay in touch with people long-term. It's so important.
I love it.
Love it.
All right, Jess. Well, thanks for being here. Thanks for sharing all the cool stuff you guys are doing over there. We do appreciate it. We are big fans. As you know, we continue to talk to everybody about adding this tool to their buyer consult. So anybody has any questions, they can reach out to you, and we'll look forward to seeing you in the hallways of another real estate conference.
Yeah. Great. Thank you, guys.
We'll put some links in the show notes so you can chase down Jess if you want to learn more.
Awesome. Thanks, Jess. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
We need you to subscribe to this podcast because you need us to keep saying the things that nobody else will say out loud.